Just following up on the question, and it wasn't clear to me, was the initial information on the gentleman referred to, Ibrahim Tatashev, was that original information from the Russians?
You're saying...
I think I heard you say there was a variety of sources that brought you to him.
You're talking about the individual from Florida?
Yes, who was murdered.
That came
or
from
killed, excuse me. I don't want to apply that that's murder as an FBI activity.
It came from several leads that we were following here domestically.
And was there an initial lead that perhaps came from the Russians?
I don't recall there. There may have been, but I can't recall that there was, that he had been identified by the Russians.
Are you aware of a letter from the FSB dated March 4th, 2011?
Yes.
And was that letter initiated by the Russians, by the TSB?
Yes.
And that letter sat in the file for a while, and your response to that was how soon after that?
It did not sit in the file for a while. It was acted on very quickly afterwards.
Do you have domestic information on Tamerlan prior to that date?
Did we have information on him prior to that date?
Yes.
I don't believe so.
Pardon me?
Wait. No, let me just say his name had come up.
Okay.
In two other cases, those two other cases, the individuals had their cases closed. Okay. So he was one or two person away.
So it's reasonable that the letter of March 4, 2011 refocused the FBI on Tamerlan?
Absolutely.
And then you're aware of a letter also from the FSB dated April 22nd of 2013?
Yes.
And those two letters, are they classified?
I am not certain what their classification level is.
I would ask you to take a look at both of those letters and consider, if they are classified, to release them. The subject matter of that and the information within it, I think that Mr. Cohen and I would agree is something to be useful for the American people to be aware of. And for me, I was struck by the amount of domestic information that the Russians had on activity inside the United States on Tamerlan Tsarnaev. And that seemed to be the first information that flowed forth. Is it also, to the public is my reference, is it also possible to reconstruct, going backward through the timeline, a place or places where there might have been an intervention that could have prevented the Boston bombing, knowing what we knew at the time?
You know, every time we have an incident like this, we go back and scrub it hard. I indicated one area, and that is notification of the subject traveling should have been documented. Whatever action was taken as a result of that notification from Borders and Customs should have been documented. But in looking back at it, I do believe that his radicalization went forward substantially during probably the time he went. It was in Russia, but I do not believe that he was on the radar screen of the Russian authorities when he was back there.
That's also my understanding. But as far as the radicalization that took place, do you see that as a long process that perhaps started when he was younger and was a product of his home country, the United States, and back to his home country? Or how do you view the radicalization?
I think the best you can say is maybe in fits and starts.
Okay, and I think that's fair. The security, though, when we have people coming in from, let's say, the North Caucasus region, who are persons that come from, let's say, a profile that would fit persons of interest from nations of interest. Do we do inquiries with the Russians or any other country to do background checks on those individuals that might be seeking asylum here in the United States that come from those areas?
You really have to turn to DHS in terms of what they consider in terms of evaluating the asylum. I would hesitate. Well, I think really DHS is the.
But don't they subcontract that out to you?
I don't.
Doesn't USCIS ask FBI to do the background checks?
Yeah, I don't think they contracted us. I think they
Shorthand.
Run records checks through us to see what derogatory material we may have on somebody who's seeking asylum.
But are you aware of any inquiries that might ask the Russians to give us some advice on who they might be watching that's coming into the United States under asylum? Which is how Tamerlan got here?
We usually, well, I don't know because I can't speak to what the FSB does in all of its cases. But if they have a person they believe to be a terrorist, I would say often they give us that information and ask for assistance from us to address that particular.
Let me suggest that in a direct question of Mr. Basita, who's second in command at FSB, he said that those kind of inquiries, he couldn't say it never happened, but as he looked at the other people on the panel, they seemed to think there was one inquiry perhaps 10 years ago. His specific response was those inquiries are nil. So I'm going to suggest to this panel that we need to take a good look at how we do background checks on people that are coming from nations of interest who likely are persons of interest to tighten up our security, and I think that was a window, and there might be hundreds and perhaps more than hundreds that come through a window like that.